Talk Show. Recorded live.
Welcome, everybody, to the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the blacksci-fi.com website. This is your October 16th, 2015 edition. There's just enough time to get me a gift for my birthday on Friday. I don't want anybody spending over $200-300 on me because it would just be embarrassing. But anyway, tonight's guests are the creators, actually the brain trust behind the science fiction series CB Nation. We've got DEWAYNE Copeland, who's the producer and editor, and Scott Evans, who is the writer and director, although I'm willing to guess that sometimes they change hats when the need presents itself. And they're here to talk about not only the series, but the things that brought them to where they are, and, the usual interesting conversation that we always have. So welcome to the show, gentlemen. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Actually, Scott does the editing.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, I do. Hey, how's it going, everyone?
That's Jarvis's fault for putting it up wrong. But anywho, before we get too deep into it, which of the two of you would like to just do the overview of what the series is, and then we're going to go back to the very beginning on how you guys got together and things like that. But give everybody a description. I'm going to pop up some of the links in the chat room where people can find your work while you guys go ahead and one of you or both of you get started on that.
Is that my cue?
DEWAYNE, after you, sir. It's your cue.
TV Nation. Enter a world where heroes are made, not born. There are no mutants, aliens, or accidents. All abilities are bought and paid for. Follow a team of superpowered enforcers as they fight crime and each other. That, in a nutshell, is CB Nation.
Okay.
It's a web series. We're on. It's on YouTube. You can go to cbnationseries.com and be able to click to all the episodes from there. We've had 6 episodes in season 1. 4 episodes in season 2, and we currently have an Indiegogo campaign running to raise the funds to do a super spectacular season 3.
And actually, let's go ahead and let's get started from the beginning. I mean, where did the two of you grow up? Either one can, DEWAYNE, where did you grow up?
I'm from Arkansas. I grew up in Crockett Bluff, Arkansas. So rural. Population like 60 million. Mosquitoes. Okay, that joke is gonna get tired eventually. But yeah, it was country. A field in front of the house, woods on the other 3 sides of the house.
Wow.
And a gravel road. Well,
right now I'm hearing banjos in the back of my head.
Well, maybe it wasn't that.
You done made the wrong turn.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, you grow up there, and so did you spend most of your early years there? I mean, how long? And did you go someplace else? That's the other question. I mean, elementary school, high school.
Yep. I didn't leave Crockett Bluff until I graduated from high school.
And was it mixed race? Was it mostly something this or that? What kind of community is that? Or was it back then?
Cows and chickens and mosquitoes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. So I lived on a gravel road, so it wasn't like there was like a ton of neighbors around. I had like an aunt that lived, just down the road.
Right.
And there was another neighbor that did move, and they moved a trailer in closer to the highway. It was a friend of my mother's, and so I became friends with her son. And that was like high school, I think. But no, it's like when I took the bus to school and took the bus home, and I didn't see, like, the other people, like, play with friends after school. You go over to somebody's house. I didn't see anybody after school let out, and I didn't see anybody during the summer, unless I caught them when we went into town on Saturdays.
Mhm. And so, growing up like that, I mean, were all of your pursuits kind of singular? Were you a loner? I mean, yeah, basically, it seems kind of an isolated way to grow up. How did it affect you? What was its overall? What was the overall effect on you growing up like that?
I never felt isolated. I mean, I used to read encyclopedias. My mother it was me and my sister. She got us a set of, full set of encyclopedias. And, like, I might see something on TV and, like, oh, okay, let me look into that. And I'd go get, like, that encyclopedia because it was, there were two houses right next to each other. We called the other one the old house. That was where my mother and her brothers and sisters grew up. That's where the encyclopedias were. So I had to actually go over to the old house and bring the encyclopedia back. So I would actually bring a couple of books with me. Like at the end, it was World Book Encyclopedia, so they'd have like related articles at the end of what I was looking for. So I grabbed those volumes too. So since I had them all, I just end up reading through other things that were there.
See, that's not bad. I mean, my experience was similar. My parents tricked me. Right outside the bathroom, they had the bookshelf with all of the encyclopedias and other books. So, I mean, when you're going to grab you some reading, it was always of some kind of learned nature, some sort of reference book. Okay, so, and then when you graduated high school, you said you hadn't gotten out of there till then. Where did you go off to then? And what were your interests at that age? I mean, okay, so you're researching, you're reading, you obviously have native intellectual curiosity, you're self-directed, and what have you. Where did that take you while you were in high school? What kind of interests did you have? Because, I'm kind of interested to see how you gravitated to creating a show.
Well, I suppose just in broader sense, I was interested in computers. I started programming I started using a computer in the 6th grade. I mean, if you remember Commodore PET, they put one of those into a classroom. So I had a study hall, and that teacher, the study hall was small, but the teacher didn't actually have it in the study hall. She had it in her classroom. She was a math teacher, and so she had a computer at the back. So one day I asked her, can I sit at the computer? Can I use the computer? And then I started a trend because after I started that, then everybody else in study hall wanted to use the computer, and we had to take turns with it. So I started a trend. But one of the upperclassmen showed me how to write a basic program. I spent the summer, I think it was between like 7th grade and 8th grade, I think, writing a program for like an adventure game. It didn't work, and I had to go back and rewrite it. But from that point on, like I spent like all of the 8th grade, like instead of going out in the playground, I was in that classroom writing a program on that computer. And then I eventually taught my mother into getting a computer. So I remember after going to see the Matthew Broderick film War Games, I came home and wrote a program for the VIC-20. All it did was it printed across the screen, would you like to play a game? How about thermonuclear war? And then it did an explosion sound and flashed the screen.
But that's still pretty creative, man, to be driven to that extent.
And then I remember when I got to high school, there were 2 computer classes. There was like an intro to computers and then like whatever the next level was called. So I knew enough already that the teacher let me skip the intro to computers. And then in the 2nd class, I was sort of his assistant. I was helping him help everybody else learn how to do it.
That is how kids have much more innate curiosity than adults do. Plus, that dude's grading papers and probably looked at it when he first got it as more of a hassle than
I got to give a shout out. This was Mr. Whitcomb. Mr. Whitcomb was he was spectacular. He would have been Doc Brown. In a real life, in a movie version, he's Doc Brown from Back to the Future.
Okay.
He would go through and pull like old clocks and things out of the garbage and actually fix them.
Wow.
I remember one story he told. He was like a candidate for the teacher in space, but he was telling us they would never have chosen him because he knew too much about how things work. They needed somebody that was more that was, I guess, less scientifically, less how to put that, more stereotypically teacher, I guess. He was probably closer. He had more in common with the actual scientists, probably. But that's Mr. Wickham. He taught computers, he taught chemistry, he taught physics. He repaired the air conditioners at the school, fixed broken clocks.
Is he still alive today?
I have not. I don't know for certain. I think the last time I was back for a class reunion he was, but I have not been in touch with him. His daughter was in my class, so I don't know for certain.
Okay. And where are you living now, by the way?
North Hollywood.
Quite a change, I would guess. But okay, so between leaving your 60 million mosquitoes or 50 million mosquitoes, and now, where did you carry that interest of computers into college, or what happened after you graduated high school?
Oh, I did. So in college, I was majoring in business computer science, and then at one point, I was on a double major in business computer science and marketing. But then what happened was there's a class for business computer science. There are two classes. One's prerequisite to the other. They're both only offered once a year. So if you miss the first one, you're off by a year. So when that happened, I went straight to marketing. And then the same thing happened in marketing. There was a class, two classes. One's prerequisite to the other. If you don't take the first one on schedule, then you're off by a year because you can't get the second one until you've taken the first one. So in the end, I ended up with my degree is in management, business administration and management. But it still worked out because my job after college was at IBM.
Yeah, they hired me first too. Now, so you kind of don't do a lot of programming stuff going through college. Let's talk about the period of time from after college to where you got into the mindset of creating, being a creative, being a content creator.
That actually did start in college. I remember personnel management. That in that class, we had to do case studies. And our group, there was a group of us, we were presented with various case studies. We did each one on video. There was one member of our group worked in like a media resource center and had access to video equipment. So we did three different presentations. Everybody else stood in front of the class and did their presentation. We actually did ours on video. The first one was a Star Trek takeoff. I played a Starfleet admiral, and then everybody came in, and I was given like some type of personnel management. It was some type of like management review type of thing. So we did that. We took scenes from Star Trek: Next Generation. It was like one scene where it was like an empty hallway, and we spliced that into our video. So we even made it look like I had like a shot of the turbolift doors opening. And then we cut to our guys coming out of an elevator in one of the buildings on campus. I had everybody do red shirts, and I made up like paper badges, like the Starfleet insignia from Next Gen. That's how we did the first one. And then the next one was the People's Court, and I played Judge Wapner.
Okay.
And then there was one that I hope that one never comes to the light of day. It was a take on the Twilight Zone, and I'm not going to say anything else about that. But from that, I had an interest in like doing video and everything, and like I did a summer internship at IBM and that's when multimedia was becoming a big thing with IBM and computers. And I actually worked on a multimedia project while I was in that branch office that summer. So when I came back for my senior year, I was like, yeah, you know what? I want to do movies and stuff. I ended up back at IBM, but my first job with them was in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and I was working with the cable access network there. And I moved away before I got to produce anything there, but I did go through all the classes. And continued with that. I continued with that until I moved. I moved to Dallas after my stint with IBM, and I got involved with a group there called the Cooperative of Black Filmmakers. And just that sort of solidified the move to film.
And so, did you actually get to do, work on features or shorts, or what were mostly the things that you did when you were working for or at post IBM, by the way, like in Texas?
It was shorts. It was shorts.
Yeah.
I did work. You know what? I did work on one feature. What was it? It had Amy Locane, Gary Busey, Hal Holbrook, Amy Irving. I can't remember what it was. It was shot there in Texas somewhere. At the time, I was working at GTE, and I was doing this. I forget, it was like 410. I was working 4-10-hour days, so I had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. So I would just go out to the set and volunteer. I was attached to the props department. I was a props PA, and I was responsible for the director's chairs.
Okay.
You gotta start somewhere.
I'm out there, yeah, because I got into trouble once because I was standing nearby the chairs. Hal Holbrook came and sat down, and he started talking to me. So I'm not gonna ignore him. So I'm like, we're having a conversation. He's fascinated by the fact that I actually had a full-time job and was just doing this for fun on the weekends. After he got called back to set, the second assistant director, who hadn't even been on the project when I started the project, just lit into me about standing over the talent and talking to them. Yeah.
Well, now let me just ask you, what hue skin was this cat? Be rating you.
Not mine.
Okay, all right, that's enough. We don't have to belabor the point. Yeah, all right. So okay, so that's how you got into film. Now let's talk to you, Scott. And first of all, where did you grow up?
I grew up in East St. Louis, Illinois, right across the Mississippi River from St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it is what it is, man.
Well, I mean, okay, I admit to Chicago chauvinism about St. Louis, and I know that I have. And I know that I have that, and you know what it's like. I mean, you lived there long enough to know. Well, them Chicago people, they got an attitude. But I will admit, the one time I went down there and spent some time, isn't there a Six Flags down there?
Yes, that's in.
Or there
that's
was.
Like the biggest one in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Still there.
And I went down there, and all the black folks there look like Leon Spinks. So.
Wow, you know what? I'm not messing with that. I'm not.
Okay.
I still got people there. I'm not messing with that.
Okay, all right. Well, let's just pass that one on. Okay, and did you also spend your formative years, your early school years in that area?
Yeah,
how'd that work out for
in
you?
East St. Louis in that area until it informed who I am and who I, end up becoming, and it also informed my desire to get away from there.
Sure.
As well, just because of my interests don't really coincide with the
industries of the area.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Just to be nice about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not every. First of all, you got two things going for you. When you're young, sometimes you just want to get the hell away from where you are just to be someplace different. And then,
right.
if you are enlightened like you were, and you realize that being there is not going to feed your soul, you leave. You go. I mean,
it took me a long time to get there. It took me a long time to get to that moment and to build up that courage to take that leap. I mean, I didn't really move away, really make that full break until I was in my mid-30s.
Okay.
Mid to late 30s, actually.
Yeah.
So it took me a long time to come around to it, but here I am.
But I mean, okay, but still, think about that. You're, for 30 years, that's a lot of formative, make you what you are kind of crap that goes on during that time,
Right.
So,
right.
So, regardless of how you see St. Louis, I mean, it obviously had an effect on you. I mean, when you grew up and when you were going to school, did you have any experiences kind of like Dwayne where you got into film or where you recognized being a creative was where you wanted to be? Or did you have a more conventional upbringing? I mean, how did it go for you when you were in school?
I've never not wanted to be a creative. As early as I can remember, I saw Star Wars I was 9 years old. Saw it in theaters.
Right.
And I knew right then that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted something, whatever it was they were doing on screen, I didn't really understand exactly what it was. I knew I wanted to do that. For me, initially, it manifested as acting. And I studied acting in high school and in college, theater major. Did a little bit of mass communication, hoping to get my hands on cameras back then. That didn't really happen. It kind of came later after I got into the regular workforce, worked at the post office for a little while, got into TV news, broadcast news, which still pays my bills and feeds me and my family. But I've always wanted to be a filmmaker of some kind.
Yeah.
Actor, writer, director, and it's still what I'm kind of doing, acting, writing, and directing.
And were there any, I mean, what kind of opportunities did you have? I know with TV news, there's not a lot of creativity there unless you're going to lie about the stories or whatever.
Right.
But, I mean, what did you find anything there during that time that did kind of feed your soul and then kind of help that desire along, or were you really kind of at the periphery and you just had to get out in order to get it done?
Yeah, well, back in the day, back in the 80s, there was a small little cadre of us that were trying to do something in the genre, in the field.
Okay.
But this is back in the day of everything was shot on film. There was no video, so
it was
very it was expensive. There just weren't resources there. It was just this myriad of problems that kind of prevented us from actually making any significant headway. And eventually, I just kind of had to make a move and go somewhere else and do it. Nowadays, you can probably kind of get away with staying there and doing it with the advent of the internet and cheaper technology. But back then, you had to make a move. You just have to. You want to take it seriously, you got to go. You got to go where they're doing it.
Mhm. And so you in your 30s you left, and where'd you go? Did you head out west?
I came out west. Go west, young man, or go west, older man. Yeah, I came out here. I had just a regular job opportunity. Came out here, pursued that, and got into the acting. Did that pretty steadily for a while. And segued right into writing and directing because, the phone wasn't ringing. So I got to make my own opportunities.
Right. Hey, were you in anything that we would have seen you acting in?
Probably not. I was in this thing that was running on the SCIFI channel for a little while called Alien Abduction. It was terrible.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, so, I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a fun little movie. Whatever. It's what it is. It's an alien ripoff, sort of.
I mean, and if we're going to be honest, if we're going to be honest, if you want to be on the Sci-Fi Channel, basically you have to move to Vancouver. Yeah, I said it.
Yeah, this one. You're right. You're right. Most of this stuff is shot in Canada, but this one was shot. This was back before they kind of made that transition to shoot a lot of stuff in Canada. But they kind of shot that here. I've been in a couple of shorts and commercials. Nothing significant.
But you wanted to be behind the camera.
Not initially.
No?
Being behind the camera at first kind of was it was kind of a necessity. Like I want to see this particular thing. I got to get behind the camera and make it work. I got to make it happen myself.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be the lead. I want to be the action hero. I got to do it myself. That kind of didn't happen. I ended up spending and focusing more time on the writing and the directing and less time on the acting.
Okay.
And so here I am.
Okay, and here's the $64,000 question. How did you two meet?
Okay. I'm sorry, say again?
This is the $64,000 question. How did the two of you meet?
We met at this coffee shop called Doughboys Dozens. That was also like a little meeting ground for a lot of black artists, actors, writers, directors, musicians would come to this. They would gather at this place, and they would have acting classes and readings and poetry readings, and jazz bands would play. It was just this great little organic community that this brother Eugene, what's Eugene's last name?
Williams.
Yes, Eugene Doughboy Williams had created for us down there. And a lot of those relationships I still have to this day. Our lead actor, Derek Sean, came out of Doughboys. Our police officer, Chanel Blake, came out of Doughboys. A lot of us come out of Doughboys. It was a place to be back in like the late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
And it's where I met Dwayne.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I met at Doughboys at the screening that he would have. I mean, Keith Sweat was there one screening. Robert Townsend was there one screening. Glenn Turman hosted one screening. Tachina Arnold hosted a screening that I went to. Doughboys was it. A lot of the contacts that I got, and getting started in what quote Hollywood in L.A. came out of Doughboys. A lot of it came out.
And so, I mean, it sounds like the perfect networking venue for bumping into folks who, and I'm sure you can determine right away if these are people, somebody is someone you can work with or not. And so you guys met there, and what's the entomology of, how you first meet each other and you get to doing CB Nation?
It's kind of really funny because there's this project that apparently I was on, and I can never remember it. Scott always relates this. Apparently, he was acting in it, and I was just helping, and we were shooting in a park.
Right.
I'll probably let you tell this since I don't remember it.
A friend of mine was shooting a short, his first short. I was cast in it, and we were shooting in the park. Didn't have permits. We were just there, guerrilla style, making it happen. Dwayne rolls up, and apparently he was the I don't know if you were AD or some kind of producer, but we were having problems with the cat that worked there. He didn't want us to shoot there. He was thinking about kicking us out. Dwayne went. They had a conversation off to the side. Next thing I know, we were able to shoot all day.
Wow.
And yeah, that's how I don't know what he said. I don't know if he paid him. I don't know if he threatened him. I don't know what he did, but he made it happen. I ask no questions. You tell me no lies.
There you go. I mean, nobody wants to know if there was any weed involved.
I can say with all certainty that there was nothing like that involved.
But I mean, but that's how you run into people. I mean, I have a bunch of people here. I mean, if you look at all the shorts that I've got, you see a lot of the same people. And I think the reasoning is the same. First of all, you find people who can actually deliver what it is that you need delivered, whether they're acting, sound, what have you. And then they're people that you can count on, who that you have an affinity for and that you can work well with. And obviously, you two epitomize that kind of relationship. And so where did the idea of CB Nation come from? Was this something that you guys decided, hey, I got this thing that I want to do, let me run it by you, or did you sit down and say, hey, we should do something together? Excuse me. Which was it more like in the genesis, if you'll pardon the term, of the series?
Well, that all started like in early 2010. there were a bunch of web series online. I collected them all into an email. There were a bunch of science fiction web series, I should say, online, including a group that had been doing. They have like 7 seasons of their own Star Trek series.
Oh yeah, I've seen some of those.
Done.
Yes.
I collected a bunch of those links in emails and sent them out to friends. Scott wrote back and said, "Hey, why can't some like-minded black folks get together and do something like that?" And then that's what we did. I sent him a script that I was working on. He sent me a script that he was working on. He read the script I sent was called Soul Dragon. He read that and said, "Hey, can I take a shot at that?" And before I knew it, he had written 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just started developing what CV Nation would be. Because I think the original title that we called it was called the Landing Accord.
It was the Landing. Yep.
And then we eventually changed it to CV Nation because I think there was going to be some confusion about what the Landing Accord would, what that would actually mean and what that
is, because it never actually comes up in the first season.
Right. Well, I mean, you have to do your own kind of what do they call that? Audience.
Like a show Bible.
Yeah, and then you also have to run stuff by. It's like, okay, the Super Bowl's not going to use Roman numerals anymore because Americans are too damn stupid to understand Roman numerals.
Oh, wait, is that that's happening?
That happened this year. They made that determination this year. And so yeah, but it's like audience research. That's what it is. It's audience research.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and if you have an obscure name, that you guys are right, that can play poorly for you at the very beginning, and keep people from even looking. Even people who see you from checking you out.
Right.
So yeah, that makes sense.
Well, there are just as many questions about what CV Nation really is because we never actually say CV Nation in the context of the show either.
It's just kind of the title,
Yeah.
But okay, well that kind of begs the question. We'll keep bouncing back and forth. But like right now, you have half a dozen episodes up?
10.
10 episodes. Okay, you have 10 episodes up. And right now, have you been able to determine like how many unique people view an episode? Especially the 10th episode because it's the latest, and hopefully it will show to be, obviously the biggest or get the biggest audience. What are you looking at in terms of maybe unique viewers? Do you have a way to check that metric?
I'm still trying to decipher how the YouTube metrics work. They're there, and I'm just digging into it.
Yeah, I rarely check the hits because it hurts my soul. Because I feel like it should be doing better. Because I feel like it should be doing better than it does.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
I see like cat videos get 100,000, 200,000 hits. Stupid videos of people just talking to their webcam would get 100,000 whatever hits. And here's a show like ours where we put a lot of time and heart and our soul into it, and we're also filling a niche and a void that people say that they want fit and they need filling, but we struggle to find our audience.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I don't check those. No. And that's the hardest threshold to get over. That's the biggest challenge. I mean, it's kind of like having the best interview show on the internet, and you barely get a dozen people listening to you live on a Friday night.
Right.
but here's the deal. The biggest challenge to all of us creatives, no matter what venue, what genre, is rising above all the background bullshit noise. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And the reason why cat videos get what they get and all that other crap gets what it gets is, and I'll tell you, there's a mathematical reason for it. Some people are tired of hearing me say this, but here's the deal. You got the bell-shaped curve of IQ distribution, right? That bell-shaped curve, and then top dead center is average, and that's 100. You know what that curve also proves?
But
That just a hair under 50% of the people out there are of subnormal IQ. So here you are, you're trying to skim the cream of the crop, the people who will appreciate, the thought, the preparation, the creativity and everything else, and it's tough to find them. It's tough to target them. And, even the same thing with books, with movies. I mean, look at the millions of dollars they spend on some really crap-ass movies. Yeah, on crap-ass movies, marketing bad movies. Okay?
Right.
And so you're sitting there and you're going, okay, I don't have $50 million to pump into an advertising campaign. I don't have $10,000. Okay, here's what I'm fighting with. In order for me to break out as an author, the way I want to break out as an author, it's going to cost me $15,000. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have $15,000 laying around, and I'm not going to go rob a bunch of people to get it. But knowing what it takes and not having that resource, like you said, it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking because, I mean, obviously your series, I watched two episodes of your series. Obviously, there is a market for it. Okay, but how do we get the market to find us? And everybody says, "Oh, you need social networking." Well, basically that's shouting at your friends. Hey, guess what?
It's more than social networking, I think, and
absolutely.
Shouting at your friends only goes so far.
Right.
One of the observations I got from a friend from another crowdfunding campaign that I was involved with a while back. I was sent out like an email or something saying, hey, so help support us, help get this project made. And the person's like, everybody I know has a Kickstarter campaign. And that made me think, it's like, okay, right now I'm in sort of a microcosm of people, and everybody in that microcosm is doing the same thing. So Kickstarter, Indiegogo, it was all new, still kind of is, and everybody's now got this great idea of like, hey, I can raise money from this. And of course, the going thought is we'll do it from our social network. We're all in the same network, so everybody is hitting everybody else up to raise money, to raise your money. So that
right.
It's sort of your audience is sort of finite in that sense.
And
but here's the thing.
It's like the social thing is like it's all we have really because we don't have a marketing budget. We just don't. We can't afford to buy out billboards. We can't buy out bus stops. We can't buy time on whatever hit TV show is going to talk to our specific audience. We just don't have it. So we gotta stay on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, whatever. And that specifically me being a little older, I'm not really part of the social media generation. So that's like a new skill set I got to learn. And I have to not only learn it, I also have to appreciate it, so I'll be more engaged in it, more involved. And it's just it's such a change from the old way of doing it, where you just make it and you pass it off to someone else to sell it, or someone else to build the audience for you. And now and plus, everything is so saturated.
That's what I'm saying. There's so much.
Through everything to find. However, as far as we can tell, we're the only ones doing what we do. As far as a serious web series that's about superheroes or comic book superhero genre, we're the only ones, particularly diverse, black, whatever you want to call it, people of color. We're the only ones doing it, and it's been that way for years. And we're still having problems finding this audience that claims to want what we have and what we've been giving or trying to provide. And it's just it's frustrating.
Well, no, I get it.
Really
I get it. And that's a frustration that just about every creative faces, because you constantly have people say, "Oh, where where are my where are the shows that I can show my kids? Where are the shows with actors who look like my children?
Like me. Right.
Where are the shows who that are being done, and it's often very hard to find within our own community the kind of support that we need just to do the simple things. And then when you talk about trying to propel a show into, to get the same kind of attention as the Star Trek knockoffs and all of that, it's tough. I mean, here's what I have to do. I have to spend $15,000, take out an ad in the New York Times book section for 2 to 4 consecutive weekends, and I have to bait people. I have to tell people, forget Star Trek, forget Star Wars. The Dark Side trilogy is the sci-fi tale for the new millennium. And so, you get some people who are curious, but just imagine that. That's $15,000, and that's $15,000 like right away. That's not, can I pay it on time?
Nope.
Can I stretch it out on a note? Can I put it on my credit card and pay the minimum? No, they want it all right now. And so with you guys, I mean, you go to your channel, you've got your campaign video, you've got all of the things that you're doing, and then the challenge is, how do you drive people there, and then are you doing the best way, the best thing to induce them to help? That's the other thing. I don't see a lot of instances where you have a multitude of African Americans helping other African Americans, and that's sad to say.
I think it depends on the genre. Well, I think it depends on the genre because that and I'm going to use this term, and I don't mean to use it disparagingly, like the chick flicks, or like Buffy, romantic comedy kind of thing. Those things they're killing us on the internet.
But that's because everybody lives in that audience. Yeah, but they live in that romantic fantasy. Have you ever met anybody who had the personality of somebody in a chick flick? Hell no. Except when they dog us out as men.
Right.
So,
but that audience is so loyal, and they're there, and they come out, and they support, and they talk about it. But our audience doesn't seem to do that. We don't seem to get that same amount of support and the same love.
Yeah. Now, do you also live in LA too, Scott?
Yeah.
You guys are living there together.
We literally live like right around the corner from each other.
Okay. All right. Well, then you all should probably get in a better neighborhood, because any neighborhood that would have you both that close, you got to question.
I know.
But I just
helicopters are always falling out of my house. Anyway,
I do marketing, and for other people, and have some decent marketing ideas. But one of the things that, and it's still a little expensive, but one of the things, I mean, do you have A-list actor cameos?
No, we don't have A-list actor money.
No. I know that, but there are ways to get them cheaper than normal. And you being in the location you are, but you know what? We'll talk about this off the air, because seriously, I'm doing a feature film here in Chicago, and I'm going to have about a half a dozen A-listers do cameos. Nice. Yes, It's a little expensive, but I'll tell you exactly how I'm doing it, because it's the trick to getting it done. And you're in such a better place than me. I mean, for me to catch somebody in Chicago.
We have had this conversation, and now we're actually approaching it a little more seriously as we go forward.
I'm thinking of LeVar Burton without wearing a beret on his eyes, or a hair on his eyes. If you can draw, if you could draw somebody in, obviously that would help. But I don't want to spend time on that. I want to talk about, I want to talk a little deeper about the show itself. What's kind of like the elevator pitch for the show, and then let's talk a little bit about how you formulate your plots, what the writing process is, and what kind of vetting process you go through for your scripts. So what's like your elevator pitch for the exact series?
That's actually what I did at the beginning. You want me to do it again?
Well, you did that as a funny, kind of jokey commercial thing. But I mean, when you guys sat down to do this, did you have CB Nation as a series in mind, or was it something that you really put some time and effort into developing it? What was the real entomology of the story arcs and the plots?
We actually developed that because the original script that I sent to Scott called Soul Dragon, the characters Soul Dragon and Trans Guardian were in that. The character that's now called City Wolf he had a different name, but he was also in that, and they weren't superheroes; they were actually gods. So it developed from being that short piece that I had written into being, okay, it's superheroes, but we're not going to do the superheroes the same way that, Marvel and DC are doing superheroes. So we developed this whole world of something happened. The Lansing Accord, the original title we were talking about, that is a result of an event that happened in Lansing, Michigan back in the 70s. And the way superheroes are structured right now is all because of that event. So we're going to get to that eventually. It hasn't been really revealed yet what's going on, but we're going to get to what happened.
Your origin story.
Yes. The way I kind of wanted to do it is not to have a story where somebody comes in and sits down and tells you the entire backstory. I always the stories, the series that I find most fascinating are the ones where the backstory is sort of revealed over time. If you watch everything, all the little hints and clues are there. You can finally put together, oh, this is what happened. Because that's kind of what happened with Babylon 5. If you ever watched that, they throughout like the first 4 years, there were a whole bunch of little clues as to what happened in this Battle of the Line. And then when TNT took over the series, they actually did a movie. Now it's called In the Beginning, and we see the Battle of the Line, and all the little clues that we had been told about, we finally get to see on screen as far as what happened. That was always really cool. So that's what I wanted to see for this. So we sat down and we went back and forth on developing what the world would look like. Are they in the union? We started with like maybe it's a union. No, it's not a union. That didn't quite work. It's a corporation. No, it's not a corporation. And finally settled on domestic dependent nation. So that's what this nation is.
All right. And so, what was your plan or what is your plan to elevate? I mean, how do you compete with the current crop of super heroes? The destruction porn that they're pouring out of these big studios.
Well, I think the thing is, like, we don't compete with them. We create our own lane. We can't compete with Man of Steel. We can't compete with Avengers. Not yet. Right. We're not playing on that playing field. We're playing on our own playing field. We're over here.
Right.
Playing in this playing field. So come play with us. We're trying to focus maybe more on character. Smaller things are going on in our world as far as the heroics. So no cities floating over the earth, nothing like that. Maybe eventually we get there, but right now we're trying to keep it grounded, but not too grounded to where it's boring, I hope.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's a tough thing because again, when you talk about audience expectation, you're talking about the medium to low end of that IQ distribution curve, and they expect certain things. I can't watch that crap anymore. And people say, yeah, but I love X, Y, and Z, and I go, okay, here's my analysis of Pacific Rim. It was the loudest movie I had ever been to in my damn life. And second of all, there were so many scientific inaccuracies in it. It obviously was not aimed at somebody like me. And I'm, I'm not trying to say I'm better than anybody else, but but I really want to expect more. So when you look at something nuanced like you guys do, I mean, when you look at something nuanced like you guys do, you know, you're going to have. It seems like you're going to have to not only draw in the audience, but have them develop their own appreciation for it. And I would imagine that that's a tough road to hoe for you guys. So how are you addressing, you know, trying to get those people in there? You know.
Well, we're hoping.
Go ahead.
I was saying we're hoping that the crowdfunding campaign that we're doing for this next season would help us do that. The idea behind what we're asking for is to be able to deliver more of those, you know, those types of thrills, you know, for the internet. You know, we're you know, we're not going to be able to destroy Metropolis as Cal did.
Oh man, I think, you know, I just cringe when I think about that.
What people have to realize, or they have to remember, is that we are paying for this show out of our pockets.
Mm-hmm,
so we just don't have that. We just don't have those resources, or at least we didn't at first.
No. And I don't mean that.
You know, effects are not cheap. You know, costumes are not cheap. These things. This is
actors are not cheap.
Actors aren't cheap. But luckily we've been blessed to know a lot of really great actors who love us and who are willing to work for us for, you know, way less than and a lot less than what they're worth. And also because they love the opportunity with it. Huh?
I said we thank you, bless you all, to the actors.
Well, but here's the thing, you know, you find great people like that, people who are invested in the success of the show because they believe in it and they like the idea. And you know, Lord knows nobody wants to be appreciated after they're dead. You know, you guys put together 26 episodes and or however many episodes. Let's be optimistic. Let's say you guys do 50 episodes, and eventually you want to not only have it be self-sustaining, but you'd also like to make a little money doing it too, so that you can keep on doing it. And all of those things are familiar challenges, and all of those things are challenges that people have a tough time meeting. And to what you said, you know, earlier, Scott, that there's so much out there rising above the noise level, or even getting some eyes on what you've done is really a tough thing. But I mean, your episodes are short; they're not overly long. I'm sure, you know, from what I've seen, I like the way the action is paced and things like that. So eventually you're going to get more and more people, or at least I think you're going to get more and more people. But, you know, I think, isn't the calculation, well, are we going to be able to do that before we starve? Isn't that, I mean, because...
Right, that's always the, that's the fear. But we're growing. I mean, we're getting, they're getting hip to the show. Slowly,
right?
Just, you know, we're ice skating uphill, straight up, like my man said. We're ice skating uphill, but we are getting there slowly.
And it doesn't sound like you're. Go ahead.
I think it's going to be a slow build. I mean, I posted something in one of the groups that I'm in on Facebook, and somebody responded to it. Hey, I didn't know anything about this.
Right.
And that's good. We're seeing that. You know, I go to comic book conventions. We don't have a booth at any of them yet, but I walk around as I talk to people. I have a card with a URL on it and everything. Talk about it, and people are like, we want to see this. The East Coast Black Age of Comics Convention. Thank you guys.
Right.
You guys are awesome. They have actually featured us for 2 years in a row. And we always get a lot of new subscribers and hits following that show.
Yeah, try hanging an iPad around your neck with an episode running on it next time you're at a convention.
Right. And, you know, I guess part of it is our fault for not really being diligent on our promotion the first couple seasons. So, I get it. So I'm more than willing to accept, you know, my responsibility in that. And like I said, it's a learning process. We're learning how to do all of this. We're learning how to make superhero films. We're learning how to sell them to people. We're learning how to find our audience.
Right.
It's all learning.
And
you know,
the other
people
thing is,
will come out and join us.
Yeah, but also, like this show, you when you direct people to this, they're going to hear almost like the behind the scenes of how you did what you did and who you are and things like that. People will develop a decent buy-in if they're familiar with the talent that's creating it too. So, not only is it a part of you having to sell the series, but in large part you still have to sell yourselves.
Indeed.
Yes.
You're right.
I'm looking at your pictures. Neither of you look like you scare children and animals. So, so walking around the conventions, that's daunting because first of all, you want to talk about a playground of overstimulation. That's a tough one, because everybody's trying to look at everything, and then the challenge is to distinguish yourself in a way that people, when they get home with their bag of swag and all of that other stuff, they go, where was that stuff from CB Nation?
CB Nation, right. And I guess it's also because we're not selling anything. All we can do is hand them a card or have claims or a booth. So it's a little more difficult to say, here's this thing we have. Go to YouTube, click on the link or whatever. It's all right. I'm going to give you. You know what I mean?
I'm going to give you something for free.
My approach?
No, be sure to put a QR code on every one of those cards.
There is a QR code on the card.
There you go. Then they don't have to type anything, hopefully.
It takes you right to our site.
There you go.
My approach on it is when I go to be sure.
Right.
I'm not the guy that's standing outside the convention center with a stack of postcards, handing them out to everybody that walks by, because nobody takes those. They take them and they drop them three steps later. My general approach is as I'm walking around to people's booths. My badge says professional. So if I get into a conversation with somebody there, we're talking about their product. Eventually they ask me, I see that you're a professional. What are you working on? Then I tell them about the show.
Right.
And then I give them a card then. So I'm not walking through like just randomly handing out cards to everybody. I make a connection to the people that I'm talking about it with. Sure.
Well,
now when we do eventually get past the waiting list, we do get on the list at Comic-Con or at WonderCon and get a table, then they'll be like, come to our table, come over here, check out CB Nation. Yeah.
Well, and then running the episodes is always a winner in terms of grabbing people's attention. So you've got the 10 episodes now. How long does it take you to generate an episode from writing until post-production?
Wow. The writing, the writing kind of fluctuates. Actually, it all kind of fluctuates because we end up doing it kind of at our own schedules and just trying to work around everyone else's schedules because of budgetary issues.
Right.
So it's taking longer than it should.
I was going to say, so we're not set up like how television does episodes, where they're working on something every week, and like this team's on episode 1, and this team's on episode 8, and this team's on episode 5. This week this happened. The way we did season 1 was all of the episodes were written before we actually went into production. And so I don't remember how long the particular process was, but we had a reading of the first 3 episodes in like March of that year, and then when we first went into production, that was in November.
Mm-hmm.
So between those two, the last 3 episodes were written. But when we finally get the final production, we shot the bulk of the first 6 episodes over 2 4-day weekends. So we put all the episodes together, scheduled it as if it was a feature film, and essentially shot it all at once as opposed to shooting it episode by episode.
Mm-hmm,
Season 2, we actually did more episode by episode and grabbing actors as they were available. So for that season, those 4 episodes took far longer to do because we didn't have the funds to do the budgeting and everything as we did the first season.
Okay.
So they don't have a standard. There's not a standard answer.
Yeah.
You don't have for an episode.
Yeah, you don't have a process like that yet. You don't have a studio process at all. And of course, the money part is well taken. Let's talk about the process. You film, you write obviously, and then you is it pretty much standard? You have your table read, you have your set designer, get everything ready.
Well, we finish the scripts. We get them
right.
Dwayne and I chop them up, make sure it's where we want it to be. We try to have a reading. I like to get rehearsals if I can. Location, I scout the locations.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's choreography, we get the fight choreographed, whatever. And then we make it happen. We shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's in the lab, making it, editing and doing the effects and everything else.
Yeah. And then I actually have another question. How did you get your actors, your main actors? Oh, wait, hang on a second, guys. You're listening to the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the blacksci-fi.com website. This is the October 16th edition, and we have the creators and the main force behind CB Nation, the sci-fi series. For those of you in the chat room, I popped up their links. For those of you who are listening, go to YouTube, youtube.com/user/CB Nation series to check out the actual episodes. Otherwise, you could go to cbnationseries.com for their website. So let's talk a little bit about your talent, the actors that you got. You said that you're very blessed to have those who are very committed to the production and committed to the series. How did you find most of them?
We know a lot of them. Tricia and Derek, we knew.
Chanel.
I tried to work with Chanel before.
Chanel, right? Jason, I knew. I'm an actor, so I know a lot of actors. So
right.
And I produced a number. I produced a number of other short films, so I knew a number of people too. And then we did have auditions. Sharita came in an audition and killed it. Killed it.
And Ryan came in as well as in an audition, and he nailed it.
And so they gelled right away. I mean, was it much of a process for them to get into it, or did they really pull it together quickly?
No, I don't know. I think it was the chemistry was always really solid. Like the most challenging part for me, in my opinion anyway, is the action stuff, because of the fight scenes and all. That's the challenging thing that they have to get into, because they have to learn how to fight, they have to learn how to move, they have to learn how to fall, et cetera, et cetera. They have to do all of these complicated things that not too many black actors get to do, because not enough of us are part of this genre.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they don't come prepared with that set of skills.
But I when I watch it, it looks great. I mean, they pull it off very, very well. You said that they're committed to the series. I mean, do you think that you're going to see them, the same actors in for the long haul, and then rotate others, peripheral actors in and out, or do you anticipate, since because of the genre, that you may be bringing in new main characters as you go along, further and further into different
storylines?
Yeah, right. I'm sorry.
No,
into different seasons.
Right. Well, no, I'm committed to the actors that came with us, and who are they're loyal to us. I'm loyal to them. I don't want to, start dumping actors just because we can get, more name talent.
Oh yeah, no,
worth a little more money. But we will be, of course, bringing in. We will be expanding our cast as the stories progress, but we will continue to have that main core group that we all know and hopefully love.
Yeah.
With those same actors playing them.
Yeah. Are you pitching this, and just, I'm asking you because I saw it myself, are you pitching this to, kind of a standard young adult sci-fi audience, or, who did you deliberately target when you were putting together, each episode?
You want to start?
Dwayne, you want to take it? You can take it.
Okay, well, actually it's interesting. I think we kind of have different audiences. I see the audience as your superhero fans. Anybody that's reading superhero comics. Anybody that's a fan of superhero movies. Anybody that is a fan of science fiction. So for me, the audience is anybody that falls into those categories. You like these things, then this is the show for you. That's who I, when I talk to people, I'm handing everybody the card. I approach everybody who I think might fit and might like this and fit into it.
Right. And so that kind of begs the question, at least for me, have you thought about, and excuse me if I don't know, like a comic book spin-off of the show?
Well,
yes, we
have talked about that, and for me, I'm a film guy. That's my medium, so I'm focused more on that. I am a fan of comic books, probably not as big as I used to be. Dwayne, however, is really, I think, more interested in comic books than I am. I'm not opposed to the idea, but personally, for me, if you want to break us up into departments, I'm more focused on the film aspect, getting it either on TV or on cinema screens or whatever.
No, I get that, but I mean, as a spin-off to drive people to the show, even having someone come behind you and do a comic for
right.
Comic genre for the already completed episodes. I'm just asking because I don't know.
I have had a conversation with a comic book company about doing this, but at the moment the concentration is on doing the film. So
sure.
doing the series.
Right.
But the idea is there, and I've got a contact that was not disinterested in the idea.
And just
and again, that takes money too.
Yeah, it does take money. And the reality is, film and TV is hot for comic book stuff right now. Superheroes,
right.
It's all over the TV. It's all of the biggest hits that are coming out of Hollywood are superhero film. Now is the time for us to do this thing. This is the hot medium for the genre, and none of us, no black creators are playing in it right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I want to fill that need. We want to be the ones who are the pioneers, if you will, of independent black created superheroes. We got a Black Panther film coming out. I'm excited about it, but that's Marvel. There's a Cyborg movie supposedly coming down the road. I'm excited about it. There's DC. Luke Cage is coming out on Netflix. That's Marvel. We don't own any of those. We didn't create any of those. We create CV Nation. CV Nation's for us, by us. If you want to, if I bite the FUBU trademark for a second,
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that we're strictly for us, by us. But this is something that we're created for our audience, for our people. That because we're underrepresented. We've been doing this 3 years now. We are trying to create that diversity and offer that representation that we all want, right? Or that we all need, that we've all been talking about. You know, not sidekicks, not comic relief, not supporting characters, lead characters.
Right.
You know, we are the heroes. We get the girl. We save the world. We make the big decisions. You know?
The story revolves around us, yeah.
Exactly. And not, you know, coming in to support what Cap is doing or what Iron Man is doing or what Superman is doing. It's about us. We are the driving force of these stories. And that's what CV Nation is for me. That's the importance of it for me.
And
with that, fellas, I gotta sign off. Work is calling.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate
thanks a lot, man.
I wish you your time, man. And I appreciate Jarvis. I appreciate everyone out there listening. Again, check us out, CV Nation. We're here. We've been here. We're not going anywhere. We got an Indiegogo campaign that's running. We could really use your support. Help us on this journey. I appreciate you again. Thank you.
All right. Well,
thanks,
Scott. We'll catch up with you again.
Yes, sir. All right.
All right. And Dwayne, you're sticking around?
I am.
Okay.
I do want to.
Go ahead.
I think make at least a clarification. There are other web series out there that are people of color that have powers.
Right.
But my take on them is that they're not superheroes. They are people with powers. Not necessarily, they're not claiming to be superheroes, not actually jumping the genre as we are, going, yes, we're superheroes, and making a mistake on that. So I know we've said a couple of times we're the only ones doing this. So for anybody that knows about the other web series that are out there, let's see, Body Jumpers is one. There was Osiris was another one, and I believe there's a short film, Orishas. But my take on those is that they're not trying to be superheroes. They are people with powers. So I want to make that clear. And then there are tons and tons of fan films that are out there. So our point is we're not a fan film. We're superheroes.
And you're entirely original.
Yeah, and we're entirely original. To that point, there's at least, I think, 2 other superhero web series that are out there. Heroes of the North and one called Vigilantes. I haven't had a chance to check that one out yet. But we are we're minority-based superhero series. So I always wanted to just be clear on that hopefully we're not staking a claim to something that
and you're not trying to hurt anybody's feelings or slighting anybody or anything like that.
Thank you. That's what I'm trying to do. Not slight anybody. Anybody, because we're all in this together. Their success is our success too.
And you know what? The more that's out there, I mean, first of all, there's a lot of room for a lot of different content. But if we were to speak frankly about the difficulty in getting seen, and I think it's, I break it down to the 80-20 rule, where 20% of what you do as a creative is the creative stuff, and the 80% is about the business of doing business. Talk a little bit. Other than the marketing, are you running and the money? Because those seem to be the 2 biggest things, and sometimes they seem like the only things. But what other things have you learned about the business of doing business to do a series like this? What are some of the pitfalls that you found, and what were some of the surprising things that you found, whether good or bad?
Well, pitfall, I guess for business, anything in business is always having it in writing. You need contracts. We run into situations where we're like, hey, let's just do this. But yes, there should have been a contract in place. So I advise anybody that's going to be doing any type of film production, don't ignore the whole getting a contract. One thing that also surprised me, and I don't know why it did for some reason. I think I do know why it did, but getting permits. Everybody here shoots guerrilla, and for the first season, we actually went through the process of getting a number of permits, and that was incredibly expensive. And I think what tripped me on this was I produced a short film, co-produced a short film a number of years ago, and we shot out in Fontana, which, for those of you outside California, might as well be Tatooine. No disrespect to the people in Fontana. That's just the description of how far it is from L.A.
Sure.
But anyway, shooting out there, getting the permit, that was not, terribly expensive at all. So I'm thinking, why does I have permits? Now I know. Well, that was Fontana. It's the California equivalent of Tatooine, so that's why it was not expensive to get a permit out there. So getting permits, because it also required getting insurance. That was expensive. So be prepared, and be prepared for anything to happen. That's another thing. Always be prepared that anything's going to happen. When we first started the production, we actually lost our first location the first night.
What happened?
But a miscommunication.
Oh, okay.
So, but
you don't have to go into it. Yeah.
We did find a replacement location that night, so we were able to do a company move to another building across town to do the shoot.
Mhm.
I was trying to think, what are some other things that have gone on? Writing contracts. You need to be careful when the terms in writing the contracts. One of the contracts that it wasn't written by me; it was written by someone else. Some of the terms are incorrect.
Mhm.
So that was a surprising conversation with a union representative.
Okay. Hey, I've got something for you. My favorite Teamsters joke is, how many Teamsters does it take to change a light bulb? And the answer is 6. You got a problem with that?
Somebody was on the chat. 60 miles. Yeah, Fontana is 60 miles from L.A. We don't measure distance in miles. We measure distance in time.
Okay. Yeah, it's a little different here in Chicago because they try to be more film friendly. The state also has like a 30% tax credit for any production that's over $100,000. And believe it or not, if you don't require the police or any other kinds of services, permits here in Chicago are $25. And when I tell that to when I tell that to my friends in LA, they go, "Man, no wonder you're going to do your movie there." But you guys live there. It would be just as costly to try to do your production here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how. I mean, obviously, what's his name? Michael Bay thought it was advantageous to do a lot of the filming for Transformers here. I'm not sure what the value proposition was, but I do know that a lot of my film friends here did get employed temporarily, for that production. Right. So they didn't bring everybody from LA, But yeah, in terms of time, okay, how long will it take us to get there? How long do we set up? Do we stay over a day? Are we going to stay several days? I mean, the logistics of making film or television are a lot more daunting than people would probably suspect, And
it was really interesting doing the first season and trying to schedule everything. We're doing 6 episodes, but shooting it like it's a feature film, and then trying to schedule all of the various locations. How many episodes use the same location? So we need to shoot, all of those pieces.
Right.
That location. Right. Because even there was one bit. I think it was episode 4, the bit for the CD Hotel.
Okay.
That was actually shot in the same location. It's not really a hotel at all. It's the same location that we shot the conference room scene in in episode 6 in. Same location that we shot the rooftop scene in episode 1. The same location, just on the ground, where the couple was walking in episode 1, where the 2 thugs are in episode 1. And then almost every alley that you see is an alley that's near Scott's house.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's like I think we've used every single alley around him in both seasons.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you're saying because I have a building that they allow me to shoot stuff here in Chicago, which is right across from where they tow your car when you get a boot. But anyway, I mean, in this one building, we've shot in the basement. We've shot in different offices. I mean, of the four films I've done, I think every single one of them might have a scene in that building. So, I mean, well, come on, man, that's the magic. You know?
Yeah.
And so now you're used to the logistics. I mean, you got to schlep stuff here. You got to make sure everybody shows up on time. You got to make sure that the police aren't going to, all of a sudden kick you up the street. I mean, it's a big thing. So, I mean, it seems like that 80% that's supposed to be the business of doing business is really, I mean, that's a big honking part of what you have to do. I mean,
yeah, that's just that part of the business. Since we're SAG New Media, so we actually have to have an agreement with the Screen Actors Guild, and that's
right.
a whole other administrative set of things to do. So you're handling that. You're handling food is one of the big things that I want to do is make sure that there's always food on set for people to eat. Nobody wants to hungry. And I'm typically trying not to do because I think everybody hates pizza, especially as a second meal. So when we're doing this, I'm trying to do as nice as possible, meals, not bringing in, the little wrapped finger sandwiches that you pick up at the grocery store, or
right.
I've been on numbers that's where the meal consisted of the cheapest pastries that you can find. I mean, that was all there was all day long.
Well, and these are a lot of things. I mean, when people think about a TV show, they don't think about logistics, and making a web series, a TV show, a movie. 98% of everything is logistics and waiting for something to happen. And that's not an easy environment to work in. So it's good. I mean, it's good to hear that you have a very dedicated cast because it's not easy to hang on to people, and having that additional difficulty just exacerbates everything. So, I mean, now you're looking for funding. And what are you looking for the funding for? Is it to fund operations at this point? Or are you going to be able to devote a little bit of the funding that you're looking for to marketing? Tell us a little bit about how your business process is going forward.
Primarily, the money we're looking for would go into the production.
Okay.
We would like to, right now, using the SAG contract, all the payments are deferred. If we can, we'd like to not defer everything. We'd like to, give the actors something. That's one of the things that we want to do. We talked about the destruction porn of the big superhero films. We're not going to be able to reach that level, but we want to be able to provide a more visual effects than we've done in the past. We want to take the next step up from what we have been doing. And of course, we're developing the story now for what season 3 is going to be. obviously we're going to have, bigger locations. So we're going to get back into needing to do, permits and insurance and all of those things. There are lots of imperceptible things that make a show better that you don't necessarily, see on screen, and that would be, maybe having to rent a jib for a particular shot. That just adds another dimension that, the person watching it doesn't really see, doesn't really like visually go, oh yeah, okay, they moved the shot and did this, and that's cool. They're just like, that's cool.
No, you're right. I mean, and that, I mean, I mentioned, the magic, but yeah, that's true. I mean, you would like to be able to, when you present whatever it is you're doing, you want it not only to be seen well, but to be good enough that it doesn't force somebody out of their suspension of disbelief, too.
Right. And I guess, and on top of that, we are staying with the same cast.
Okay.
Focusing more on them, but there will be new additions. But probably new CVs. But I don't think we covered that in this particular broadcast. CV stands for Costume Vigilante or Costume Villain.
Okay.
So we will have new CV, so that's costuming for them. That's where the money is going to be going. Now, we haven't reached the point in the campaign where we're talking about stretch goals. So I'll give you a sneak preview. Once we reach the goal that we set forth in the campaign, stretch goals after that would be, adding to the marketing budget,
right,
potentially doing a feature. If we reach that goal, and we might set a stretch goal, then we might actually go for actually doing a feature.
Well, then you ought to drag your ass out here. It's going to be cheaper. Even putting your people, your primary people up in a hotel, it's still going to be cheaper to film here in Chicago.
Okay.
I even scout locations for you for free. I'll do it for free. I do it. I make people pay me, because I really like money. But I mean, if you considered it, I would be more than happy to lend a hand because.
Well, thank you so much for that. That is definitely going to be on the table then.
And if you spend over $100,000, you get 30. If you spend $100,000, you get $30,000 in tax credits. And guess what? Those tax credits are marketable. You can sell those, and people are getting 90 cents on the dollar for the tax credits. So imagine if you had a $100,000 budget, you could actually get a $29,000 worth of revenue to help fund your project.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Let's continue this discussion.
Absolutely. No, but see, here's the thing. Everybody, I think, who is a decent person, and I sometimes I am. Maybe not all the time, but everybody would want to see someone successful, especially somebody doing something good, successful. By the way, somebody in the chat room wants to know, are you going to have any casting calls? Because I think he wants a walk-on part. I don't know. I would never ask for that because I truly have the face for radio. So anyway, I mean, yeah, casting calls. Do you announce those, by the way, when you're getting ready to film? I mean, or do you generally have your pool of actors? I mean, how many people do you audition? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, for we did audition for several parts. We auditioned for Pantheress. Again, we auditioned for Stackhouse. And when we did those, we put the notices on Actors Access. I believe there's Now Casting, LA Casting. There's a number of casting websites that actors submit their headshots to.
Right.
We put the notices up. I'm not quite sure. I'm not an actor, so I'm not quite sure on the actors' end how that all works. I think either the actors themselves or their agents and managers will see the notices and submit their pictures for the parts that they want to be considered for. And we go through, we find the looking at the headshots, looking at the resumes, we determine who we want to call in, and then set up the call. And we were using a location called CAZT, CAZT. It's a very cool casting spot here because they had cameras and everything already. So we just brought everybody in and did the readings there.
Very cool.
For anybody listening who wants a role, that is actually one of the perks in the Indiegogo campaign. So there is a cameo appearance.
Right. Yeah. Well, if you need a particularly ugly-looking villain who has a good radio voice, I'll maybe I'll throw some money in the hat for you. The other part that I'm curious about is, do you have a lifespan of this series? Are you thinking in terms of a number of seasons, or are you just going to push it out as far as you possibly can? Like some series have an arc. Like Breaking Bad, they were going to do 5 seasons. That sort of thinking.
At this point, we haven't discussed really anything beyond season 3. We are sort of at the moment in the here and now. The season that is season 2 was actually meant to be one shot. But the thinking was that outside of the core people that read comic books and the handful of people that paid attention to the extras on Marvel, Blu-rays and DVDs, no one's really going to know what a one-shot is.
Right.
So we actually numbered the episodes that are season 2 are actually supposed to be standalone one-shots. But we just did the numbering so that it's easy for people to follow as they're determining, how to watch the series. That ended up being season 2. So really, season 3 is actually going to be season 2. We're essentially going to pick up shortly after the end of episode 6 of season 1 and continue on from there. So, and we're developing that story now. We actually brought in an executive story editor. I'll give a shout out to Adam G. Key. He has joined our team as our story editor, and we have a writer's room now. It's interesting. So we are essentially brainstorming the flow of season 3, and then once we've reached that zenith, then Scott will start in on the writing.
Okay, and I mean, obviously the process is laid out. You're ready to go. Do you have a tentative timetable for when you might be starting? Or are you just letting things happen organically and then moving forward as soon as you reach a milestone?
We're letting everything happen organically. There's no, unlike studios, we haven't bum rushed the calendar and crashed the date where everything's gonna happen.
Right.
We're developing the story for season 3 as we do the crowdfunding campaign for season 3. Following the end of that, we will proceed from there because we're going to proceed with what we're able to accomplish with the crowdfunding.
Right.
So we're hoping to be able to reach the goal. In the event that doesn't happen, we will proceed with what we get.
Yeah.
That changes dramatically. Can change dramatically how we proceed. I always get the question, how much does an episode cost? And in film, I guess here's a way you can look at budgeting. There's I think there's two ways you can do this. And I'll use the example of wedding videography, because people will ask me, well, how much does it cost to shoot a wedding?
Right.
And you can charge $5,000 to shoot a wedding, or you can charge $500 to shoot a wedding. The wedding that costs $5,000 is going to look dramatically different from the one that costs $500.
Right.
You can apply that same thing to any other film or project that you're shooting. Spending $5,000 on a project I don't have to say can look dramatically different from spending $500 on a project.
Mm-hmm.
All that just means is we can't get that crane. We can't shoot at this location because we can't get the insurance. So
right.
Now we have to shoot at a different location that doesn't require insurance. We'll do a shot that doesn't require a crane. So those would be the adjustments that we would have to make at a lower budget than what we're striving to achieve.
Sure. Well, and that's the other thing. In order for you to be healthy financially, you cannot live beyond your means. And taking a cold hard look at the budget that the amount of money that you have, and then tailoring your budget for that amount is an essential skill.
Yes.
So, it is a business, and it's a big business. What you're doing is not, it's not. Yes, it's called entrepreneurial, but it's a well-established business model, and there are some definite hard costs to doing what you're doing. And most businesses fail because they undercapitalize, and so having a fundraising campaign obviously is going to help you with your longevity. How much are you looking for, by the way, if I can ask?
$50,000.
$50,000, and
yes.
And that, do you think that's going to cover, how much of the third season will that cover? All of it, or
that will cover all of the third season?
That's remarkable. I mean, that's really some very good monetary control over the process.
And again, it's scalable. I mean, we could have done a $25,000
right.
season 3. But that season would look dramatically different from what we're planning with a $50,000 season 3.
Sure. All right, so let's move out of the realities, because sometimes that can be, if not depressing, tedious. But,
yeah.
Well, I'm just being honest. I mean, I gotta shoot a feature film. I'm fortunate enough I got the money to do it. But boy, I'm telling you, there are days. Well, thank you. There are days when you get up and you go, Jesus, I got to do it. It's like exercising. What, I got to do this tomorrow?
And when do you start shooting?
Well, hopefully, I put it off a year. I think late summer of 2016, and it's a feature film. It's a comedic bank heist movie. And I was very lucky, like you. I had some very, very devoted people who helped me, and we did like a $65,000 production trailer, but we got it done for $130 worth of food.
Nice, very good.
But you don't get lucky like that all the time, man.
If there's anything I can do to help you with that, be sure to let me know.
Oh, I'd love to. As a matter of fact, here I'm going to drop the link in here, and you can look at it later. This was our production trailer that we did. Here, you're in the chat.
I'm in chat.
Yeah, so there's the Vimeo link to the production trailer, and I had to appear in it because like I said, we were cash poor. But when just to try to explain it to somebody who doesn't know about doing video production is tough. So let's get past that part. Let's say you get the money that you need, okay? And let's say that you don't have any money woes for the next 2 years. and that's huge. That's a huge thing to say. But let's try to imagine. Yeah, but I mean, if you got to that point, where do you see the most of your effort going, and what do you think is going to come out of that? Obviously, let's say you got $250,000, okay,
okay,
whatever, a grant or whatever. If you take that $250,000 and we look out over the next couple of years, what would we see from the outside? I'm guessing the first thing is we would see a vastly different season 3 than even you have planned now. But does that really give you some really good revenue to do the things that you spoke about? The marketing, the production, those damn permits. I mean, I couldn't survive in LA. I would have to rob old people to be able to pay for something in LA because it's very, very expensive. So let's say you got $250,000 to $500,000. What does that mean for your production?
Well, I'd say at $250,000 to $500,000. Of course, Scott's not on here for me. We have to discuss this, of course.
Of course, of course.
But my idea, and so when Scott listens to this, he'll already be a step ahead of me on this. But my idea is that we do the season 3 for the $50,000 that we budgeted at,
right,
and then we proceed from season 3 to a feature using the remainder. That's or again, this is we're sort of brainstorming this here. If we do a season 4, either maybe a season 4, or if not a season 4, then we'll do, say, I'm looking for a Netflix type pilot. We'll do a pilot.
Okay,
sure. Not a web episode, an actual 50-minute piece that we would present to Netflix as an hey, let's make this a Netflix series.
Sure.
Or to Amazon or to Hulu, or any of the other places now that are getting into original streaming content. So just sort of brainstorming what could potentially happen. I want to iterate that discussions have to be had. So this is not in any way definitive.
Oh, no. I mean, and I'm not. I mean, obviously, you're a collaborator, and that's what he truly is. I mean, he's a friend and collaborator. I mean, the two of you obviously work very well together, and I know that any decision like that is something that would be hashed out. But we're just fantasizing right now because sometimes it helps do that. I'll be honest with people and tell them, every now and then when that lottery gets up above $150 million, I'll spend $1, but I'm not spending $1 to win because you have about the same chance of winning whether you play or not if you work out the math. But what I've bought for $1 is I've bought a fantasy for 3 or 4 days. That's what I did.
Yeah.
I bought a fantasy. Oh, man, if I win this and I get to take home $68 million, what will I do with it? Well, the first thing I would do is I would have somebody chain me to a chair and do the IV thing. No, do the IV thing and force me to watch every single episode of VH1's Behind the Music so I know what not to do with my money. Okay? I'm not going to go the MC Hammer route. I'm not going to pay people when they're not doing anything. I'm not going to buy extravagant houses that just a few years later, I got to sell. All of those things. People do stupid things when they get a lot of money. That first big Mega Millions guy who won, I don't know, $183 million, or that's what he took home. 3 years later, on 2020, they were interviewing him because he was bankrupt.
Wow.
How do you do that? And nobody wants to be that guy. So if somebody drops that kind of... Oh, go ahead.
My accountant tells me that the people who are rich, you don't know they're rich because they're not driving, Beamers and Lexuses, and they're driving. They're still driving like Jeep Cherokees and other regular vehicles.
Well, Gus Fring drove what was it, a 10-year-old Volvo with his meth empire on Breaking Bad. You know, and I think to your thinking, I think, I mean, you got two classes of wealthy people. You've got those who are insecure about it and have to show it off to people, and you have those who live with it. You know, I would like to think that I would be one of those who lived with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe did good things. So I get to do this movie, or I get to do that. You know, I actually have 2 movies in me, and then I'm done unless somebody wants me to write another movie. You know, and so, you know, it's fun. It's fun to fantasize. It is fun to fantasize. But let me ask you this: you talk about doing the 3rd season and then maybe doing a feature. Do you have other storylines, other characters, other plot lines that you can, you know, that you have waiting in the wings after you're done with the CV Nation?
You know, you mean other plot lines for CV Nation, or just other things I'm working on?
Well, let's say other creative universes.
Yes, I have plenty of other creative universes.
I like how you say that. Yes, I have voices in my head. I've got
I don't have voices
I'm kidding.
in my head.
I'm kidding. Yeah.
But no, let's see. I used to say I had a you know, being a fan of DC Comics. I mean, I had a comic book universe that spanned from the dawn of time up through like the 41st century or something like that. I forget now where it was, but yeah, I had a ton of those. And then I've actually got another property called Sunstormer. If you go to sunstormer.com, you can actually sneak peek a short story that's going to be coming out soon. There's a ton of other things. Those are that one's the next thing that's coming from me. Sunstormer. And then there's just a lot of other interests that I have, because I also dabble in CG art using Dash Studio, which is a low end.
You keep busy.
I do.
And between the two of you, I mean, do the two of you, you know, collaborate? You know, in terms, I mean, like, between you and Scott, when you talk about writing the episodes, excuse me, for CB Nation, and especially writing the feature, where does most of the creativity come from, or at least the core creativity come from for the stories and the characters? Or are you really? And he's the one who's tapped into that, right?
He's really tapped into the characters. And really creating the stories, and I'm sort of that. I dislike using the word nerd, but to make this short, I'm the super nerd that's sitting up there going, "No, you can't do that because in this episode this happened."
Yeah. Okay.
I'm that guy. I mentioned earlier domestic dependent nations, but didn't go into any detail on what that was. All of the Indian nations in the U.S. are termed domestic dependent nations. They are sovereign countries, but only in the U.S. So that their sovereignty is not recognized outside of the U.S. That's essentially what TV Nation is. So as we're working on stories and things happen, I'm like, well, no, we can't really do that. He can't say that because of this. I'm that guy.
All right. And now, I mean, it sounds like you have a really workable partnership, you know, where you've got the defined roles for each of you. Did it take you long? I mean, because, you know, sometimes partnerships take a little while to gel. I mean, were you guys pretty well?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you know, I sent him the Soul Dragon script. He was like, hey, literally, it was like, hey, can I take a stab at this? And
right.
like 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, 3 episodes.
Man.
Literally. And then, we didn't discuss, because again, we went through the whole thing of what is, I think before we call it CB Nation, I can't remember at what point it became
right.
CB Nation. The original title for the series was going to be The Lansing Accord.
Right.
And I forget even like at what point we decided to change it. But we went through discussions on what is the nature of how these superheroes are set up.
Sure.
We pretty much knew early on we did not want it necessarily to be, just like almost any other superhero. All the classic superheroes got their origins back, in the 30s, the 40s, and the 60s with Marvel, where somebody had an accident and gained superpowers or
right.
anything like that. So we developed this storyline. And I don't think we've talked about it much as far as where the powers come from. That will be coming up. There was a sort of a hint of it in episode 6 of season 1 when they're talking about the Russians. But that's how, again, the tagline, no accidents, no aliens, no mutants. All abilities are bought and paid for. So all the powers are either biomechanical or biochemical, which means there's some device that's doing it, or there's some, chemical solution that's giving you or
kind of bootstrapping your abilities.
Yeah, and I think it's not a cheap thing. There's been a couple of barbs thrown about. I think in one episode, one of the characters calls the others a rich boy.
Okay.
So that's an indication of it's not inexpensive to become a superhero.
Right. Okay. All right. So we're winding down. We got about 7 minutes to go. Let me ask you something really. What is the most positive thing that you have that you can point to or that you can tell us about in putting this entire enterprise together? I mean, what has been the most, I don't know, fulfilling or exciting or the most positive thing of creating and executing this series?
It is the actual, putting your mouth where your money is. Getting it done. Actually, getting it done. A lot of people can sit and go, "Hey, I want to do this. I want to see this." Working with Scott, we actually made this happen.
Right.
So it's fun, to go, okay, we got this. We did this. This is something, doing superheroes. You expect to wait for the big studios to do that. You managed to find a niche to do that. We concentrated on character and story rather than mindless action. To begin with, we want to bring up the action for season 3, but without sacrificing our focus on character and story.
Sure.
I can't remember if I related this particular story the last time we were here, but at Comic-Con, not this year, but last year, Derek Sean, who plays Transguardian, was with us at Comic-Con. He and I came into the gas lamp early one day. I needed to get parking because I had equipment for a shoot that we were doing later.
Okay.
So we were there before everything opened and just went to one of the hotels that's close to the convention center to wait for everything to open. We're sitting there, and this kid comes in, sits down next to us. After a minute, he turns to Derek and says, "Hey, aren't you the guy on CB Nation?" So that's pretty much the most amazing thing I think that has happened, to be in a place where there's like over 100,000 people in town for a comic book convention, and we get recognized by a random kid in the lobby of the hotel, you know, again, where there's 100,000 other people in town to see, you know, just to see the big stars, you know, whatever big movie was coming out last year. You know, all those people are in town.
Right. That's pretty
So,
cool.
Yeah.
And I know how that feels. I'll just tell you real quick. My one moment like that was I was getting a prescription filled at Walgreens, and I had never seen this woman before. And you know, I gave her my birth date, and then I gave her. She said, "Are you William Hayashi?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Are you William Hayashi, the author?" And so that's November 10th, 2013. I've got that date in my head. That the first time that ever happened. Because, I mean, it's a big damn deal to me. I mean, you know, not that it means anything to anybody else, and not that it means I'm special or anything, but to have somebody go, are you William Hayashi, the author? And, you know, William Hayashi is okay. There's like 600 of us in the country, I think, you know. So, but
really,
well, yeah, it's William, and Hayashi is like the Johnson of Japan, man.
Okay.
And if you go to San Francisco, take your shoe off and throw it in a crowd, the chances are pretty good you're going to hit one of us. But here's the thing, it was just cool to hear. I mean, one random kid sitting down next to you guys, and then, you know, it's got to give you a great feeling. It really has.
It did.
Yeah.
That was completely awesome. Completely awesome. And then, you know, being recognized by my peers, I appeared on a panel with Brandon Easton at Robert Park. He does a writer's panel. So I got in that. He also has a documentary on Black science fiction and fantasy writers. So I got included in that. So it's an incredible journey, and I think it's just really getting started.
Yeah, somebody here wants to know, would you happen to have a production journal type podcast?
I don't.
But if you drop your episodes on a DVD, you can also do that sort of thing, you know, after the fact, I would guess, right?
And actually, we're not going to be able to do that because it's the SAG New Media Agreement, so our series would need to remain in New Media, which is web.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you don't want to have to deal with that old media anyway. I mean, you always look forward, right?
Always move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, we got about 1 minute left here. I want to thank you for coming on, and also I want to thank Scott. So, you know, when you talk to him after this, let him know that I was very appreciative of him being able to get there and taking time out from his work, because that's not always easy.
Thank you for having us again.
It's great.
Honored to be back.
It's great to keep up because, I mean, obviously you're continuing what you're doing, and the fact that we can have you back is pretty cool because that means you're not out of business. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
For those of you listening, I want to thank everybody who has hung on, who listens to this live, and for those of you who picked this up as a podcast, we appreciate your being here too. The Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show is every Friday, broadcast every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and then you can follow your way around the clock, depending upon your own time zone. And generally, I have the privilege of hosting this, and I want to thank everybody for coming by. I definitely want to thank you, Dwayne. I mean, it's fun, and you know what? Let's stay in touch because I could definitely use people with your kind of your experience, because I'm going to be in the thick of it either next year or the year after doing this bank heist movie.
Okay,
and, I did. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I guess after the call, can we remain on this after the call in?
Yeah, you can. Actually, what we'll do is, if Jarvis is there, he'll stop the show. And then, yeah, if you would hang on, there's a couple things we can talk about then, and if anybody has any late questions, we'll answer them then. But I want to thank everybody on behalf of blacksciencefictionsociety.com website and our peerless leader, Jarvis Sheffield. I hope he's there. He said he had to go drive, but somebody with his name on is listening to the call. So if Jarvis, if you're there, please drop in. But otherwise, let's just say goodbye now. We'll pause so that they know where to break the show, and then we'll chat for a minute, okay?
Okay.
All right, well, in any case, thank you, Dwayne. This Dwayne Copeland, he's half of the Brain Trust team behind CV Nation. We had Scott Evans here earlier, and he had to go back to his job. Special thanks to both of you for being here. And I want to thank everybody who was here listening to the show, and we will see you all again next Friday.